दिल में मेरे प्रभु स्नेह के गुल है खिले। जी भर के प्यार कर ले, यही वक्त है रे मनवा।
प्रभु शरण में होकर अर्पण, प्रभु शरण में होकर अर्पण, आबाद तू कर ले रे मनवा।
अमृत झरता किरण किरण से इन नैनों से पी ले।
So thank you so much, Pure Bai, and a special, big-hearted and loving greeting to each and every one online to Baba's home, Madhuban. I think I've been coming here now for 47 years, and this is the highest pilgrimage place. And because our world is declining so rapidly, more than ever I'm appreciating the atmosphere of Madhuban, the contrast of Madhuban, the purity, the lightness, the power, the spirituality of the atmosphere, and the contrast with our world as it is at the moment is getting greater and greater. And as Pure Bai was saying, that today is 2 years since our beloved Daddy Janki flew away. And it was Daddy Janki who would often say that, what do Brahmins love? What do we love? Baba, the Murli, and Madhuban. And really those three things sit in the hearts of all of us. You know, our relationship with Baba, our relationship with the Murli, pure truths, absolutely unadulterated truth. But also this incredible pilgrimage place, this incognito pilgrimage place, where Baba has made his headquarters to serve the world. It's just amazing. And you know, while I've been here, I have been staying in Gyan Sarovar, but every morning at 3 a.m. I've been going to Pandav Bhavan. And that is the sweetest place in the world for Amrit Vela, in my opinion. And I would sit first in the history hall. And when I sat in the history hall, I thought, such a simple place. And yet this is the place where God, the Supreme Soul, every cycle, speaks truth more than any other place in this world. And I really do feel that, I hope you can hear me okay. I hope the sound is okay. But I'll just see if I can put the microphone a little bit closer. But this place is, Baba's history hall is so powerful. And then I would move to the Tower of Peace. And it's almost like the whole soul world descends and you just go into this absolute stage of silence, complete and utter silence. That power of silence just feels so much depth and purity in the soul. And then I would finish up in Baba's room. And sometimes I think sitting in Baba's room is, in the whole world, there's no more powerful few square meters and Baba's room of Pandav Bhavan. So it's been so special to be here. And of course we celebrated 1 year since Daddy Gulzar has departed. And they've built an extraordinary place in her honor. It's called Avyakt Lok, the Avyakt place, Avyakt world. And almost looks like a temple in a way, but it's been built there for souls to sit and have an experience of the Avyakt stage. And anyway, maybe after the Murli I can share a little bit more about my experiences here and my experiences of that wonderful soul Daddy Janki who has touched all our lives. And the more I go on, I realize that we've been so fortunate because Daddy Janki really looked after foreign service. And she had such a wish to make all of us really strong Brahmins. So she told us the total fullness of Brahman life. What does it really mean to be a Brahmin, to live a Paka Brahman life? And it was really Daddy Janki's power that has made all of us strong and really taken Baba's service to 140 countries of the world. She really is a wonder. And today, as soon as I finish this Murli, I'm driving to Shantivan. And at 8 a.m. Madhaban time, we're all going to gather at the place where they've built a beautiful little memorial to Daddy Janki. And later in the morning they will offer Borg for Daddy. Mahini Ben from New York will offer Borg for Daddy. And we'll all have some meditation and storytelling. So Sister Mahini and Sister Jenti, who are our new instrument leaders of the Yajna, will be there to share stories along with many others as well, including Hansaben. How lovely was that? And even as Baba was saying that make service plans with a plain intellect, I remember there was one brother, that an Australian brother, and quite a special soul, and Baba said to him, sit at Amrit Vela with a plain intellect and Baba will touch your intellect. And you know, often I think when we sit in meditation we have our own agenda. You know, I'm always sort of self-absorbed in my life and how I feel and the challenges I have and how to change. So I've just got this constant processing and going on. So it's not a plain intellect. So Baba can't really touch it. And I've really made efforts sometimes to, to sit in Amrit Vela and in a sense just sit in front of Baba with an open heart, an open mind. Let Baba influence me. Otherwise, if I'm so self-absorbed in me and my story and my life and what's happening and my problems, Baba can't really influence me at that time. It's almost a beautiful thing to prepare my intellect to receive from Baba. And then sometimes we get such a strong experience or realization that can change the course of everything. How lovely was that Murli, and what was Baba really saying? He was saying just as we have love for him, such deep love for Baba, we should have the same love for everyone. Why? Because Baba selected that one. This soul had an intellect that can recognize God. And if that's the only virtue they have still, my vision should go to that virtue, even if they have 35 defects. And, you know, I just think it's an incredible thing what Baba is saying, isn't it? That, you know, sometimes we feel, Baba, I love you, Baba, you're the best, I'm your child, I'm committed, I have faith. With the Brahmin family, Baba, oh please, you know, I might have a little bit of distance from the Brahmin family. And Baba was saying, really, that's not the right attitude. This is my godly family. And what was he saying? We are going to be together for the entire cycle. In different names and forms we will be. This is my eternal clan. And this is, I think, I felt myself that I got to a point and I realized that if I don't see good things in every soul, virtue in every soul, I get stuck. I can't really progress. And I noticed in Daddy Prakashmani and Daddy Janki, if you talk to them about anyone, they would know all their qualities and virtues. This is such a deep training in becoming egoless and pure. I can only move forward when I realize that it's not about the other soul, it's about me. And so many times, I feel that how can I tell my purity? How can I tell my stage? It's my reactions to others. It's my reactions to others. It's not about them. Other souls become an instrument to show me who I am. So I come in front of them, their face, their vibrations, their behavior, their words trigger feelings in me. So they become an instrument so I can see still what is left in me. The soul with knowledge will see the self. Yes, it's my reaction. But the soul without knowledge will go back to the old way of, I don't like your behavior. I don't like why you're saying this or doing this. This is so deep. It's going to the heart of this life, actually. That it's not about others. Our habit of 63 births is to be influenced by others' words, behaviors, vibrations, and allow that to affect me, and then I blame you. This is all body consciousness. In a soul conscious state, what was Baba saying? I actually see the virtue of others. And when we learn that, I think, just like Baba can see, Baba has hope in everyone. Baba has hope in everyone. How powerful is that? What can we say? And really, as I was listening to that Moli, when I read it last night, I thought, this is like a Moli about Daddy Janki. Even for me, I think right from the beginning, I started in London when I was 22. And she, for my entire Brahman life, had such elevated feelings for me, such hope in me. Maybe when I lost confidence at different times or didn't feel so good or made mistakes, her vision never changed for me, just like Baba. And this is how I feel we can help each other. We will all fluctuate at different times, but the true teacher, in the sense, the true, soul conscious attitude is to hold the value of others in your attitude. And what did Baba say? That when we have love for other souls, then we will receive the blessings of their love too. That is a huge power in this life. Don't underestimate the power of good wishes from the Divine Family. They are absolutely powerful. And we can't expect them. Just say, well, they should love me. No, I win that love when I'm an accurate Brahman. So when I have love for Baba, and I have soul conscious love for others, automatically my heart will be full of love. And I feel it's the way that I can conquer Maya, because when your heart's full of love, you have no other desires. You feel full. You feel I need nothing, I have everything. When the heart is overflowing with love and good feelings, you are like a natural renunciate. You don't need anything. You don't need a position, you don't need respect, you don't need support. You are full. You have what you need. In a way, Baba was describing the formula for an accurate Brahman life these days. To have that deep love for Baba, but deep love for each other too. And I remember one scene in my Brahman life. I was 30 years in Gyan, and it was in Diamond Hall, and Baba asked all the foreigners who had been in Gyan for, 30 years to stand up. I think there was about 6 or 8 of us. Baba gave us drishti, and then he said, set a date for perfection. Set a date for perfection. And I thought that's a really interesting thought, because often we just go along. You know, in Brahman life, we just wake up in the morning and, you know, listen to the morning, just go along. But Baba was saying, set a date like you do when you have an exam. You set a date, I have to study for this. And then I was talking with the others and we were thinking, well, what is perfection? Well, in reality, you know, it's a nebulous term, but what in a practical way is perfection? In the next Muli, Baba said, perfection is to have loving feelings for everyone. Perfection is to have loving feelings for everyone. And that really means that each day I come in touch with a variety of souls. Some who are absolutely sweet and an accurate, really dedicated BKs. Others who perhaps not so sweet, others who come occasionally, others who don't come, others who may be instrument for obstacles. But what did Baba say? Have love for everyone. That's my duty. My part is to remember Baba and give love to every soul. This is what an angel does. And it's like that time in the cycle. You know, when I'm really elevated, my role is to remember one and give that love and good wishes to every soul I come in touch with. Whether it's the Brahman family, the Lokik family, in the workplace, even people I meet in the supermarket, etc. I am God's angel to give love to everyone. This is so powerful. And I think I remember once, you know, sitting with the RCs, and Daddy Janki was, you know, with us, and we were talking about something. Then she stopped and she went into silence, and then she went around giving us long drishti, and her eyes were like little light bulbs of love. She was just radiating love to each one. And it went on for a long time, and then when it stopped, she, in such a quiet voice, she said, it's love that makes me move. It's love that helps me conquer all obstacles. And she said, learn how to draw true love from Baba. And this is really what Baba was saying this morning. You know, when we really have love for Baba and love for others, you know, we move along so easily in this life. So easily. And I remember, I'm just going to share a little bit of Daddy's story from my experiences, Daddy Chenki, because today we're remembering that soul. And we don't remember to worship. We remember to inspire ourselves, because ultimately God's direction to all of us is to remember one. And don't remember bodily beings. And we remember the daddies and the seniors because of their inspiration, but we don't become devotional in that way. And she was born in Sindh, as you know, and she only did 3 years at school. Isn't that incredible? You think of Daddy Janki's intellect. She had an incredible intellect. Some Brahmins feel I'm not very educated, so how can I teach? Daddy Janki only went to school for 3 years. And she requested her father when she was young to take her on a pilgrimage to meet all the saints and yogis of India. And she went and met many of them. And in Hyderabad, where she was living, and Hyderabad, if you know Pakistan, is where it's a little bit inland from Karachi, maybe 3 or 4 hours drive. This is where the yagya began. And when she was walking down the street with her father, Brahma Baba, who Dada Legraj walked the other way. And Daddy had a feeling, like a vision of light and love from Baba at that time, even as a 19-year-old girl. Because Baba had just become the instrument of the yagya at that time. Daddy was still living with her family. And she wanted to go to the BKs, but her family didn't really let her. She wanted to join on Mandali with Baba. because they had plans for her to get married, and she really had no choice. So she was married, and her husband wouldn't let her go to Om Mandalay. But the marriage wasn't a good marriage because for many different reasons. And her Lokik father, Daddy's father, realized he'd made a big mistake in marrying Daddy, Jenki, to this person. So he pulled her out of the marriage and helped her join the Yagya in Karachi. So this is why we've heard the many stories that Daddy came a little bit later, Daddy Jenki, than the rest of them, and why she would read the Maulis so many times a day. I thought it was 10 times a day. The other day, Sister Jenki said it was 12 to 18 times a day. So this was Daddy Jenki. She was so extraordinary in that way. And actually, that time in Karachi, in Kunj Bhavan, I went there just 3 years ago. It's still there, the house is just the same. It's exactly the same as it was in Baba's time. It's a huge house. Could you imagine a house where 200 sisters stayed? Can you visualize how big that house is? It's 3 stories. It's absolutely huge. It's now a school. And where all the daddies used to sleep in the bedrooms, they've made them into classrooms now. I got such an incredible feeling in that place. I'll never forget it. And just as this morning's Morley, Baba was saying, children, it's like love is the power that takes you forward in this life. And it makes this life easy. When I was in that house, it has such a grand entrance. And when I entered, I just felt an incredible feeling. And somehow I felt I understood the beginning of the Yagya. I understood how Shiv Baba, the ocean of love, came into Brahma Baba, filled him with love. Then he filled all these sisters with so much love, like Daddy Jenki. He pulled them beyond their body consciousness. Otherwise, they were as women at that time in the world, they were second-class citizens. They were often married as teenage girls, 13, 14 years old. They weren't educated, etc. But Baba's love filled them with so much love that became power, and they really became like the Shiv Shaktis. I can remember Daddy Jenki saying, when she was, excuse my throat, I'm sorry. When she was young, she said, I was so timid and frightened. A dog would bark and I would jump. Can you imagine? She became so strong. And this is really her effort, but Baba's wonder. That really when I love one Baba and I follow what he tells me to do, I can reach that stage which Daddy really reached. No one, no matter how timid, frightened, uneducated I might be, if I really follow Baba, I can reach that stage. So I really just remember that wonderful experience in Karachi. And then she went, they came to India, and you've seen the photos. And Daddy went to Pune, which, as you know, is inland from Mumbai. And you've heard the stories of the beginnings of service. In Pune, she was on her own. She had one room. She could rent one room. And in that room, she would teach, she would cook, she would sleep, she would take her bath, everything. This was like the renunciation of the beginning of the Yagya. There wasn't money, there wasn't facilities, and even no one knew them. But because of their love for Baba and their courage, they went and did it. And Daddy often tells these stories. And then she went to Amritsar, up in Punjab, and sometimes Brahma Baba would send them around. And I went to the main centre in Amritsar. And you know, Amritsar in Punjab is where the Sikh, the Golden Temple is. Absolutely, I love the Golden Temple. It's a wonderful place. And there was a lot of opposition there because many young women began to join, Kumaris, unmarried girls, and the society really reacted strongly to these girls not getting married and for wanting to follow a pure life. And I think you've heard the story that once even Mama was there, and a crowd of 1,000 people came outside the center yelling and protesting of what the Brahma Kumaris was doing. And Mama had the courage to go and meet these people, and then she brought the leaders inside and she talked to them, and Mama's power transformed their feelings. Daddy Janki also tells stories of, she was there, Baba sent her there because Baba knew how strong she was, but there was a lot of opposition, and she tells incredible stories of the opposition of that time. And she often said how they would, when they were sent out on service, this is in the 50s, they would come back to Madhaban, and they were so happy to see Baba and be back in the heart of the family. Daddy says once she arrived at night, Baba welcomed her, gave her so much love. And then earlier the next morning, Baba said, Janik, I want you to go now to do service in this place. So they just arrived, and then Baba would send them off again. And this is how it was. Baba would send all the senior sisters on service in all different parts of India. But one interesting thing I remember Sister Jenti telling us, that Daddy lived to 104. And when I was in London, she was often sick. And this was like her in her 60s. She would spend weeks. She was unwell. And a lot of us would think, well, the first daddy that's going to fly away will be Daddy Janki. In fact, she was virtually the last one. And Jentiben said that when she was in Pune, they had so little money that when Daddy went to do service, she would walk. So every day she would walk 6 kilometers to do service and then come back again. She'd walk to the market and come back again. Even once Daddy came to Mount Abu, there was no bus up the mountain. She walked up the mountain. And Jentiben wondered whether it was all that walking that gave Daddy that longevity of her life. Then in London, she went to London in 1974. And she tells that story. She had one little bag with a few saris in it, and the little Air India bag. So sorry about my throat today. And they rented a place in Tennyson Road, which is a tiny little terrace house, London terrace house, and that's where I started. And this was the world headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris. If you blinked, you would miss that house. It was so small. But, and Daddy, even Jentiben, told us that she didn't even have a proper bed when they were first there. She slept on a door. She had a door, someone gave her a door, and she she was sleeping on a door. That was her first bed. And this is really the incredible renunciation out of love for Baba that Daddy Janki and many of the daddies have. I went to the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain in June 1975. And that was where they first started service in London. And this is in Hyde Park Corner, a very good part of London. And every Friday, Daddy and Jentiben would go and do service. And Jentiben would actually do the talk, and Daddy would just sit there in yoga. And I was amazed, because Daddy's face was so extraordinary. But Jentiben, because she had English, she would give the talk. In those days, Daddy would just give yoga power. And I went to the center. They invited us to go to the center in Tennyson Road. And I went with a friend of mine, and we did the course with Sudesh Didi. And Sudesh Didi had just moved to London from Delhi. So the 3 sisters in the center, tiny center, were Daddy Janki, Sister Jenti, and Sister Sudesh. such a powerful Trimurti, began service in the West. And as I was doing a course, Sudesh Didi would give us the lesson, then Daddy would come in and give drishti. And later I found out that during the course, because Daddy couldn't speak English, she would sit in the kitchen giving yoga vibrations. So amazing and so humble when you really think about it. Daddy would give these yoga vibrations to, you know, give an experience to those of us who were coming. And you know, Daddy really gave so much sustenance. And I then moved over the road from the center. I found a little place, and it was above a shop just across the road from Baba's center. And we had a little flat there, but you know, the shop sold fish, and so the smell in the flat was not so divine, shall I say. But there was 3 brothers, and Daddy often used to say to us, we were the first Pandav Bhavan in the world, she said. The first brother's house in the world near a center. And she often used to say to us, brothers, whenever you have a little bit of Maya, come and do Karma Yoga in the center, do the vacuuming. So we often used to laugh, we were often vacuuming that center because we were all very new. And I can remember one scene that a Jesuit priest, a Christian priest, came from Germany to meet Daddy. And Daddy talked to him for hours and hours. He came because he wanted not just to have a faith in God, to have a connection with God. And Daddy talked to him, Genti then translated. And at 10 p.m. at night, I'd gone to sleep in my little bhavan across the road, the Pandav Bhavan. The doorbell rang and I came downstairs, and there was Daddy Jenki with this Christian priest. Her face was glowing. And she asked, can this brother stay the night here? Because they've been talking so long. And of course we said yes, but I could see Daddy was so intoxicated that this soul had come to take something from Baba, a soul from another branch of the tree. She had so much happiness. And in those days, we would often go out to do service. You know, Daddy used to say, you study in the morning, you meditate in the morning, you go to work, and in the evening you should do some service. And often we would go out and do leaflets for programs and things like that. And we would return late, and Daddy herself would cook for us. Daddy herself would go into the kitchen and she would cook for us. And she used to tell us that you should be able to cook a meal in 15 minutes. Are you able to do that? Can you cook a meal? She was so quick. You know, a lot of the family in London remember what a good cook Daddy would say Daddy was. And, you know, often she would taste stuff and say, oh, needs a little bit more salt, needs this. She was really an expert cook. But what I remember of those days, every Saturday night we would have question and answer. And I think that had a huge impact, because Daddy would take us deep, deep, deep. And Daddy really offered us the full gyan, how Baba really taught them and made them absolutely paka. Because Karachi, they had 14 years with God and the #1 human soul. And Daddy felt it was her duty to offer this to us. So we would often have hours and hours, maybe 5 or 8 of us, this chit chat with Daddy on a Saturday night. I can remember so many extraordinary stories with that. And after about 6 to 8 weeks in Gyan, Daddy actually sent me off to Madhavan with this other brother. In fact, there was 3 of us. She sent us to Madhavan after just a few weeks in Gyan to put that stamp on us. And then I came back to London in 1976. And I spent the whole year in London. I also feel that Daddy paid so much attention to us, and often we would go around for service. And London in those days had a little green Morris Minor. You may remember these little old cars. And Genty Ben would drive the car and Daddy would sit in the front seat. And wherever we'd go, Daddy would talk, 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 you know. She never stopped talking Gyan, and Genty Ben was driving and translating, and we would be sitting in the back. But she had this love, this deep love to make us strong, so that we could also help in Baba's service. And I remember once we did the first program in Oxford. The first program, I went with Daddy. We arrived at the venue. I was not even 1 year in Guyana, and as we walked in, Daddy said, "Okay, Charlie, you start the program." My heart went boom, 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 boom. You know, what am I going to say? But that Daddy would often do that. She would put you on the spot and just say, "Okay, you talk first, and then I will follow." So I got up and I just said a few words, and then Daddy actually took over. But you know, I have one experience that was really special, and we went to meet a man who runs the BBC religious television. And he was a Christian minister, and he had an office in a church in London. So I went with Daddy and Denise Ben. And when we entered this man's office, and he was like a scholar of all religions, and he was like the director of BBC religious television, which is often considered, you know, some of the best TV in the world, best quality. And I was amazed when I went into his office. There was just so many books. It was just so many books that it was like a library. He was obviously an incredible scholar. And we sat down, and I was looking at his face. He had so much knowledge of religion and philosophy, but there was no peace in his face. And I remember looking at Daddy, and she was sparkling. There was so much purity and peace. And I thought, you know, the difference between Bhakti and Gyan. In Bhakti, it's all about belief, and we become very intellectual. We know a lot, but it's not often really practiced. But in Gyan, we really absorb everything. We absorb Baba's truth. And Daddy was really the embodiment of applying that truth. And after about 15 months in London, I'd been away from my family for 4 years. And my family were wondering what I was involved in, and they kept asking me and inviting me back to Australia. So I went to Daddy and I said, "Daddy, should I go?" And she said, "Yes, you should go." But she said to me, "As soon as you have any Maya, jump on the first plane and come straight back again." That was her direction. But I can remember when I went to take leave, she wasn't well. In fact, she was so unwell that Rajni Ben, who was Genty Ben's mother, said, "You know, you shouldn't see Daddy, she's just not well enough." But Daddy said, "No, you should come." And I went into her room. She was lying in her bed, and she got up on her elbow to speak to me. I thought, "Oh, Daddy's going to be really sick." And yet her face again was sparkling, and light was coming out of her eyes. And I realized that even though that body wasn't well, the soul was with Baba. And this was Daddy Janki's story. She not only conquered, you know, body consciousness, she conquered all those issues of health. She was absolutely extraordinary. She often used to say, "My body's not well, I just talk to it. I just sweetly, lovely talk to it now. Calm down. Everything will be okay, because you have to become, you know, well again, because I have to do Baba's service." So I went to Melbourne, and we rented a place in Melbourne. And I can remember after the first year, quite a few people began coming to the centre. I was so new, you know, I was hardly 18 months in Gyan. The nearest centre was India. Really, this was in 1977. And I remember once I wrote a letter to Daddy Janki about one sister who was coming, and she had a deaf daughter. Her daughter was deaf, and this poor sister had some problems in her life. And I wrote this long letter. There was no emails, and those days phone calls were too expensive. So I wrote a letter, long letter to Daddy. And Waddy, who you know is in Miami, was living in Tennyson Road with Daddy at the time. And she told me that Daddy opened my letter and she read my letter. And Waddy said Daddy laughed and laughed till tears were coming down her face. And she said, "Oh, Charlie, he's just like a new mother worrying about his first baby." You know how Daddy was, you know, she'd had so much experience, but, you know, and really that was true what she was saying. And I would say that Daddy actually visited Australia maybe 6 or 7 times. So many times she came to Australia. And she did so much service in Australia. But one thing, her last visit really remains in my mind. She came for the World Parliament of Religions in about 2009. And when she was there, you know, she spoke in the main assembly to 5,000 religious leaders. They invited her to speak. And I remember when she went to the Jewish congregation, the Sikh congregation. You know, the Sikhs, she spoke to the Sikhs in Gurumukhi, which is like their original language. They were absolutely intoxicated. And I could really see, no matter where Daddy went, everyone just loved her. They loved her so much. And one evening we went to a satsang in a huge house in Melbourne. Where a lot of Sindhis, there's a lot of Sindhis living there. And this huge house, very rich people. And Dada Vaswani was there, who was really the guru of the Sindhis. And I remember we went there at 10 p.m. after a program. Daddy said we must go because we're invited. And Dada Vaswani was there and Daddy Janki and 100 Sindhis. And we sat in this big room and Dada Vaswani, who had been really the main guru, spoke with Daddy, and it was just, he was 90, about 95, and I think she was a similar age, 97. And these two people had this incredible dialogue. And Daddy said, you know, they've never accepted the Brahma Kumaris, and this is one of the first times that really they invited Daddy into their satsang, and she was just so happy. But I feel, what did I learn from Daddy Janki? I think more than anything, I learned how to love Baba. Her life was a testament to loving Baba. And it was that love that took her beyond obstacles. It was that love that made her win the love and respect from absolutely everybody. Even VIPs. You know, once Daddy went to meet Prince Charles. Actually, a few times Daddy went to meet Prince Charles. And Maureen and Neville went too, and Gentiben. And you know, it's the royal family of England. And so they're very formal. And when they went, the butler of the prince would introduce. So they came into the room and stood. And the butler actually said, now, in Prince Charles, this is Daddy Janki, this is Sister Janki, and then he made them sit in their chairs. And as soon as he had finished, Daddy got up and he went over and sat right beside Prince Charles on his couch. And Neville said, Daddy, Prince Charles was so amazed, he loved it. And Daddy was just so intoxicated. And I found that in the Call of Times, they had so much love for Daddy because she had so much integrity and so much natural wisdom of life. And I found that Daddy held the highest vision for everybody. She was absolutely remarkable. And so we have these inspiring examples of no matter where we begin. As I said, she wasn't educated, she was young, and a woman in a society that really women were second-class citizens, and yet because of her love for God, because of her love for Srimad, because of her love for truth and churning Gyan, she reached that incredible stage. And so today we're all going down to Shantivan. There will be a special program at 8 a.m. Indian time. We're all going to meet at this place, which is opposite the conference hall, between Shakti Bhavan, where Daddy lived, and the conference hall. They've built this beautiful, simple stump, as they call it, memorial to Daddy Janki, and it has some of her quotes on it. I had Amrit Vela there one day. It's absolutely beautiful. So, and at 11:30, Mahini Ben, New York, will offer Borg to Baba, and there will be a Borg message too for Daddy, from Daddy. So anyway, it's I'm looking at the time. I've already gone over time. But I just really want to thank all of you so much. It's been so lovely to be with you, and come to Madhavan now and be with us on this wonderful day. And now I'm seeing my sweet brother Lechu, who's just appeared.
Talibai, really we enjoyed your classes, very inspiring, so much experience you had with Daddy Janki, and you learned a lot, and I was just seeing that all of you are really such great people. You can talk for half an hour, so powerful, and really filled our heart to the maximum, and so much of eager to share with all of us. Really, thank you so much, and we really appreciate you being with us this morning.
No, I should thank you, Lechu, and it's so sweet of you to have me, and I just feel, we've been friends for over 40 years, brothers on the journey with Baba, and just the way Baba spoke to us this morning was so loving, wasn't it? And we have such love for Baba, but what a great family we have too. What an incredible family. And this bond, what did Baba say? Even the whole cycle, we are going to be together. Amazing. So thank you, Lechu Bhai.
Thanks, Talibai. So we will finish with meditation.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Pure Bhai, also. Thanks, everyone.
तुमसे मेरा ये जीवन, तुमसे ही शान है, दुनिया में तुमसे बाबा मेरी पहचान है। तुमसे मेरा ये जीवन, तुमसे ही शान है, दुनिया में तुमसे बाबा मेरी पहचान है। तुम हो तो ये जमाना कहता है दिल दीवाना, और कुछ ना जानू मैं, बस इतना ही जानू, तुझ में सब दिखता है बाबा, मैं क्या करूं? तुझ में सब दिखता है बाबा, मैं क्या करूं? दिल मेरा कहता है बाबा, मैं क्या करूं? तुझ में सब दिखता है बाबा, मैं क्या करूं? कहता है बाबा मैं क्या करूं कुछ भी सब दिखता है बाबा मैं क्या करूं दिल मेरा कहता है बाबा मैं क्या करूं कुछ भी सब दिखता है बाबा मैं क्या करूं रंग दे श्याम के रंग में रंग दे रंग दे रंग दे रंग दे अपने ही रंग में रंग दे मेरा सी मैं हो जाऊं
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Okay.